A thief unexpectedly comes across a car accident on the highway. Out of habit, he pulls over, wondering if he can steal something from the wreck, but instead he stumbles upon a way to make serious money. Just as he's watching, a few men holding cameras suddenly rush in. They completely ignore the risk of the car exploding and start shoving their cameras right into the victims' faces. The scene sparks Louis' curiosity, so he awkwardly walks up and asks, only to learn these guys film accident scenes for a living. They sell the footage to TV stations, and as long as it's real enough and bloody enough, it's guaranteed to make headlines the next day. As for the price, it all depends on which station is willing to pay more. Seeing the van packed with professional gear, Louis realizes there's real money in this business, and immediately asks if they're hiring. Before he can sell himself any further, a new accident location comes over the radio. The cameraman ignores Louis completely and rushes off with his partner to the next scene. That night, Louis doesn't sleep at all, sitting in front of the TV early the next morning, flipping through news channels. It doesn't take long for him to notice the footage from last night's crash was sold to Channel 6 News. Once he figures out the distribution channel, Louis commits the last theft of his life. He trades a stolen racing bike for a cheap video camera and a police radio scanner. With the scanner, Louis can get first-hand information the moment something happens. At first, all Louis can find are minor fights or DUI accidents. He even waves his camera around right in front of the cops, not knowing the rules, until they finally lose patience and kick him out. Days go by without a single usable story, but even then Louis refuses to give up. Just as he's trying to psych himself up, a shooting call suddenly comes through the scanner. Louis races to the scene as fast as he can, but another freelancer gets there first. The other guy has better equipment and cleaner footage, but he's nowhere near as bold. Louis crosses the police line, walks straight up to the victim, and captures his own exclusive footage. He's quickly chased off by the cops, and the other cameraman gets kicked out too. Not only does Louis get the footage he wants, he also overhears that this shooting is worth $300. So he immediately contacts Channel 6, claiming he has shooting footage to sell. At first, news director Nina isn't interested, since they already have footage. But Louis insists his footage is better and more intense, and Nina isn't about to pass that up, so she agrees to watch it. What Nina doesn't expect is that Louis actually filmed the victim during resuscitation. The quality isn't great, but the raw, up-close impact is exactly what Nina wants.
How much?
I'm selling this particular piece for $1,000.
Not even close. This late you have nowhere else to go. And the quality's for shit. I'll give you $250, that's the most I'll do. Well, let's get you paid.
And just like that, Louis makes his first real money selling accident footage. More importantly, Louis learns from Nina that their audience prefers urban crime stories. If the victims are wealthy or white, even better, and plane crashes or fires work too. In short, the more severe and bloody the crime, the higher the ratings and the higher the payout. With a clear plan in mind, Louis goes home and watches his own work on TV. Seeing his footage make the headlines, Louis doesn't get excited. He edits the clip and records the date and the money he earned. This is his first piece, and while there's still a lot to learn, Louis knows he has to take it step by step. Over the next few days, Louis stays put, studying police radio codes, knowing that only by mastering them can he identify crimes through the scanner. Next, Louis starts looking for an assistant and deliberately picks Rick, a dropout from the slums. Louis offers him $30 a day, which is actually a decent wage for someone as broke as Rick. At this point, Rick has no idea he's about to fall into an endless abyss, and he's even proud of himself for landing a job. The two of them sit in the car all day, until late at night when a fire alert finally comes over the radio. Louis immediately calls Rick over and rushes to the scene while Rick acts as the navigator. But Rick isn't familiar with the job, and under his boss's pressure, he gets nervous and gives the wrong directions. By the time Louis arrives, the competitors have already finished filming and are about to leave, mocking him on their way out. Louis doesn't get angry because he believes problems are best solved through proper communication. Maybe luck is on his side, because during the second incident that night, Louis gets footage that could make him famous overnight. It's another shooting, and when Louis arrives, he immediately interviews the victim's neighbors, but learns nothing useful. But when Lucy notices the victim's front door is still open, a bold idea pops into his head. While the police aren't paying attention, he slowly circles around to the back door and sneaks into the victim's house. To make the shots look better, Louis even rearranges the photos inside the house. After filming, he even takes a letter lying on the table. This footage blows Nina away, with its unique angle, cinematic look, and even personal details about the victim. Even though the staff say it's a legal entry, Nina doesn't care, because she knows this video will explode. As long as it makes the headlines, this footage is perfect. Nina's praise makes Louis realize he was born for this job. and the two naturally enter a long-term partnership. As Louis becomes more familiar with the workflow, the amount of footage he produces keeps growing. In just 1 month, Louis single-handedly boosts the station's ratings. It gives him an enormous sense of achievement, and the profits keep climbing. To reward himself, Louis buys a faster car, while poor Rick is still stuck earning $30 a day. With the new car and upgraded equipment, Louis becomes more efficient than ever. When he hears about a traffic accident, Louis rushes over without hesitation, unaware this will mark the beginning of his transformation. At the scene, Louis immediately points his camera at the driver and starts interviewing him, only to be rudely chased off. He gives up on the interview and heads straight to the injured victim's car. To get a better shot, Louis drags the barely conscious victim out and places him in the most visible spot. Louis continues filming until the police arrive and lock down the scene. The competitor arrives moments later, and seeing Louis pack up and leave, he knows today's story is already lost. Louis is now the station's golden boy, and anything he shoots is guaranteed to make the front page. As his ambition grows, Louis is no longer satisfied with professional success alone, so he invites Nina to dinner. Nina refuses without a second thought.
I have a rule, Lou. I don't date people I work with. And I'm twice your age.
I like older women. Besides, I don't work with you. You're someone I sell to.
And I don't want to fuck that up.
What if by saying no, you fuck it up?
Not wanting to lose such a valuable source, Nina reluctantly agrees. As Louis leaves the station, he finds the same competitor who once mocked him waiting outside. The man says Louis is talented and tries to recruit him, even offering to share his police connections and resources. Louis believes he can be his own boss, so why split the profits? And he turns the offer down. Seeing Louis show no respect, the competitor explodes, swearing Louis will regret it. But Louis doesn't take his words seriously at all. That night, Nina reluctantly shows up just to keep the partnership going, thinking it's just a simple dinner. What she doesn't expect is that Louis has looked into her. She switches TV stations every 2 or 3 months. The reason is simple. Nina keeps failing to meet her performance targets, and now there's only 1 month left before the next review. Louis even claims that through studying the market, he knows exactly what kind of footage will blow up, and that he's now in high demand everywhere he goes. After finally getting to where she is today, Nina doesn't want to lose everything. If she switches partners now, her job will be finished for sure. So in the end, Nina gives in. But the very next night, Louis hits the first major low point of his career, and it marks the beginning of his descent into madness. When Louis and Rick rush non-stop to a plane crash site, the competitor who once tried to recruit him has already finished filming. The rival has expanded his team, and even another breaking story, a suicide jump happening at the same time, has already been taken by them. That leaves Louis with nothing to offer Nina except some low-interest car accident footage. All the truly hot stories are on other channels, and Nina curses in frustration. After getting chewed out, Louis goes home and vents his anger by smashing his mirror. To claw his way back to the top, Louis secretly installs a GPS tracker under the rival's car while the guy is sleeping during the day. Whenever the car starts speeding, it means an emergency has happened, and by tailing it, Louis can reach the scene at the same time. What Louis doesn't expect is that the victim of this crash turns out to be that very competitor. When he planted the tracker earlier, Louis had tampered slightly with the brake pads. Under normal driving, even an accident shouldn't have caused serious injury. It seems the rival was speeding the whole time to get first-hand footage, which is what led to the crash. After a brief moment of sympathy, Louis keeps adjusting his camera angles, terrified of missing a single detail. When the rival stares straight at him, Louis shows no sign of triumph. His mind is consumed only by the obsession with exclusive footage. Louis thinks the night is over, but soon another alert comes through the scanner, a home invasion in progress. They immediately turn the car around and rush to the scene, unaware that this shocking crime will fully unleash Louis' ambition. As usual, he grabs his camera and runs toward the mansion, assuming it's just a routine burglary. Suddenly, the armed criminals storm out, and Louis quickly dives into the bushes. He knows that if he's spotted, he'll be killed, but his mind is filled with nothing but footage, so he keeps filming without fear, clearly capturing the criminals' faces and license plate. But it's still not enough for Louis. He steps forward to film the gun. The suspects dropped while fleeing. Then he walks into the house and starts filming the victims' faces. Even though the scene is horrifying, Louis films the corpses with a completely blank expression. Following the trail of blood, Louis reaches the second floor and finds a male victim in the bedroom. In less than 5 minutes, Louis records the entire murder scene. Finally, he finds another body by the dining table, and after filming the last shot, he leaves immediately without wasting a second. As they drive away, they narrowly pass by incoming police cars. Once far enough from the scene, Louis pulls over and quickly starts editing the footage. He also secretly saves the clips showing the killer's faces and license plate. When the TV station staff watch the footage, they're left in complete shock. Faced with such graphic scenes, Nina feels no fear or nausea. Instead, she becomes even more excited. She knows this is exclusive footage, and with the killers still on the run, the story will stay in the spotlight. That means the ratings will stay sky high, and ad revenue will double, or even more. Nina clears the room and starts negotiating the price with Louis. To her surprise, Louis opens with an outrageous price, $100,000, which Nina flatly refuses. Louis says his absolute minimum is $15,000, and when Nina still tries to bargain, he drops the act. He turns to leave, saying Channel 7 is offering more, and it only takes 5 minutes to get there. Louis knew Nina would cave, but she told him even if she agreed, the station wouldn't approve the money. Then Louis promised Nina that he would keep getting exclusive footage of the whole event. He had already planned his next moves when he first shot the video. But Louis didn't just want the money, he demanded his name be shown on the screen during the news. He also wanted Nina to introduce him to all the key people at the stations. He said if she met his demands, he'd give her the other journalist's car crash footage. This mix of charm and pressure completely won Nina over. She looked at Louis with a hint of admiration. The next morning, Nina introduced him to all her colleagues, and Louis's name appeared on the screen as he wanted. At the same time, the station made the anchor emphasize the gore in the footage to boost impact. They also pointed out that the killer was still at large, and Louis became famous for filming it. As he admired his work, 2 cops came knocking. Louis wasn't surprised, he expected the cops to come back, so he was ready. After confirming Louis shot the video, the cops questioned him about illegally entering the scene. Louis stayed calm and recited the statement he had prepared. He said the gate was open and he heard cries for help, so he went in to see if he could help. He claimed he didn't know it was a crime scene. He added he only saw the silhouette of the suspect and couldn't make out their face in the dark. Even though his story was flawless, the cops were skeptical. But Louis wasn't the killer, so the cops took a report and asked for the backup footage. Louis had already edited the backup that day, removing any info about the killer. Once the cops left, Louis moved on to his next plan. He pulled up the full footage, studied the killer's features, and tracked the license plate in the system. After getting the address, Louis and Rick went there that night and quickly spotted the suspect's cars. They decided to wait in the car and call the cops when the suspect went to a crowded area, giving Louis more explosive footage. During this, Rick learned the bounty on the suspect was $50,000. He immediately demanded a raise from Louis. Rick was fed up after working so long. Not only did he have to listen to Louis's self-righteous lectures, but he'd been stuck on his intern pay. Rick threatened he'd call the cops if he didn't get half the bounty. Louis reluctantly agreed, and even raised Rick's daily pay to $75. Rick was thrilled about the raise, completely oblivious to the looming danger. 2 hours later, one suspect came out. Louis woke the sleeping Rick and quietly followed behind. The suspect first stopped at a house and met up with another killer. Louis followed slowly, knowing he could only call the cops when the suspect stopped somewhere long enough. Then the suspect stopped at a gas station to fill up. While waiting in the car, Rick worried they'd be spotted since Louis's car was too flashy. But Louis stayed calm, completely absorbed in the drama about to unfold. Soon the suspects stopped. It looked like they were going into a restaurant, and Louis quickly called the cops. He reported seeing the 2 murder suspects in the restaurant and gave the exact location. After he hung up, police comms immediately confirmed the call. At this point, there were a few civilians in the restaurant along with the suspects. A shootout would definitely cause casualty. For Louis, this was another chance to make his name famous. He ordered Rick out of the car to film from another angle. At the same time, Rick was scared, but tempted by money, he took the camera and got out. Louis stayed put, watching Rick walk away, his eyes calculating something. As they set up the cameras, a cop car arrived, and 2 officers entered the restaurant, pretending to order. The suspects weren't fooled and immediately drew their guns. Another backup cop car arrived. Louis braced himself, knowing the show was about to start. At this moment, with so many cops in one place, the suspects were fully aware. One suspect opened fire immediately. After a fierce shootout, there were casualties on both sides. As the suspect tried to escape, Louis chased in his car, filming the shootout, still hungry for more footage. With first-person footage of a cop chase, there was no way Louis would let it pass. He had Rick keep filming ahead while he skillfully drove right behind.
Red light!
Approaching a red light.
Oh, shit!
5-3-2. Black Escalade. Give me an ETA on an airship. Air 18 responding with a delay from mission. Stand by.
Oh, shit!
Louis, just as reckless as the suspects, ran 2 red lights. A cop car blocked the suspect trying to stop them, but both cars ended up flipping. Louis quickly stopped, grabbed his camera, checked the suspect, said he was dead, and told Rick in the car to come film. But when Rick got to the car, he saw the suspect was still alive, and Rick got shot. The suspect crawled out to flee, but the cops arrived in time and shot him dead. Ending the drama, Louis recorded it all from behind, filming the suspect being killed, and then the wounded Rick.
You saw it. You saw it.
I can't jeopardize my company's success to retain an untrustworthy employee.
You're crazy. You're crazy.
You took my bargaining power, Rick. You used it against me. You would have done it again. Just admit it.
I don't know.
After seeing Rick dead, Louis took his camera back to the station. When Nina saw the intense shootout footage, she couldn't hide her excitement. The event brought the station record ratings, but also the attention of the police, since multiple officers were hurt and the situation was serious. Louis was brought in for questioning, but Louis stuck to his story. He just happened to be there. The suspects were coincidences. The detectives knew he was lying, but he didn't kill anyone. And the incident wasn't really his fault. And the cops had no proof he deliberately withheld info, so they had no choice but to let him go. After that, Louis used his fame and resources to officially start his own company. He bought and upgraded equipment, recruited skilled staff, and used the multi-track methods he'd learned to grow his business. Nightcrawler doesn't accuse anyone. It quietly shows that when disaster strikes, curiosity often beats compassion. And Louis just stands behind the camera, doing the watching that everyone else would. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this breakdown, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.